Hi guys, welcome to the Clack Shack, and today I'm going to be doing a build that some of you may be interested in. I've got some upcoming events and around town. It's going to be a couple of like craft shows, like the vendor type events, and I'm trying to get prepared for those. And the thing that I want to be able to do is I want to be able to go out to these events and set up my equipment and do, keychains and dog tags and small burns. I want to be able to do those on site. I've also been asked to participate in a arts, I guess you would call it a demo or some kind of demonstration type artsy event. And one of the things that they insist upon in order to be able to come out there and participate is that you have to be able to do whatever it is you do, whether it be art, like some of the paintings, drawings, musical instruments, or whatever, or artisan type stuff like crafting or building or whatnot. So I've got to have the capability of doing what I do here in the Clack Shack wherever I go and allowing people to watch it. So stick around for a few minutes and I'll kind of go through with the idea that I've got of how I'm going to do this and explain it to you, and then I'm going to get started on the build, and I'll kind of update you from time to time on how the build's coming. So stick around for a few minutes. All right guys, so the idea behind this build is going to be I am going to use some of my poplar 2x4s that I had cut. I had some of them up at the mill. They got rained on bringing them down. It started raining while I had them on top of the buggy bringing them in. And but they're a little damp, but for what I'm doing with it, this little bit of moisture is not enough to hurt anything. So I'm going to be using those to do the frame. And y'all know I had a lot of scrap plywood left over from my enclosure build the other day, and to be honest, as you can tell, I've got wood everywhere. I really don't have anywhere to store sheet goods and keep it out of my way. So to get rid of the scrap wood, it looks like my table is going to be 69 inches long. One of the things that I do want to do is this build, and it is going to require electricity. So I'm looking at getting me a battery source for it, preferably something that I can charge off of solar. And I'm going to put the solar panels, I'm going to come up with the legs all the way above my head, and it's going to have a roof of some sort. And I want to be able to mount those solar panels on top of it so that when I go to these festivals and stuff like that, as I'm consuming electricity from the battery packs, the solar power will recharge the batteries. Now I know what you're thinking. That many batteries, this thing's going to be heavy. And you would be correct. The plan is, once I get it built, I'm also going to fabricate myself an axle, and I'm going to put like lawnmower tires under the table, or I may even put them on the outside so that you can see them. I mean, that'll, make it look a little more practical anyway. But it's going to, one end of it, which is going to be the end that houses the batteries, because those are going to be heavy. That's going to be where the wheels are located. And the other end, I'm going to kind of go with the wheelbarrow design. The other end is simply going to have a handle. And it was going to be square, guys, but now that I got the lathe, it's going to have a round wooden handle. And I'm just going to come off the end of the table, ever so slightly, just enough that you can get your hands in there without, binding or anything. And it's going to be more or less like a really large wheelbarrow. Now, it's going to be the length of that sheet of plywood, and it's going to be 36 inches wide, but basically the principle is the same. It's going to have two wheels that will roll. They're not going to be on casters. They're not going to move, but the back end of it, it'll simply sit down on the two legs, and that's going to keep it from rolling or sliding or anything like that. Another thing that I'm going to add to this cart is I will be mounting on a swivel a small television screen or computer monitor, whichever, and it will be connected to my computer so that during the design process and building of this file, the person that is on the other side of the table from me will be able to watch how it's done in the software and see that part of it. And then I'm going to order the actual laser safe shielding, I've got 3 sheets of that I'm going to be getting from a company that makes certified, you know, OSHA approved laser safe shielding. I'm going to put a 3-sided transparent enclosure between the laser and the people that are coming up to the booth. That way they can actually see it being made. And the reason I'm doing it this way is it'll help me sell some small things. I may even make some big orders while I'm there. Any big orders, of course, will have to come, they'll come through my website or come through my Facebook page or Messenger or email or whatever. But this will give me a chance to get exposure in the community. It'll also, people will be able to see how the process goes and how it works. And it gets me into these little arts and crafts shows that they want you to be able to show people what you do. So I still haven't worked out the details on the battery pack yet. I've got one that I'm looking at, and that thing is high. But you know, if you're gonna do this kind of thing, sometimes you got to be willing to make the investment and just hope that the return comes back on it. There are a lot of events around here, and if this thing will last me for 3 or 4 years, then I should be able to get my return out of it in advertising, marketing, and in the money that I make at these events. So that's the plan, guys. I'm not gonna bore you with much more for now. You've got the idea of what I've got going on. I'm gonna go ahead and start throwing some wood together and try to get this thing to where you can actually visualize what it's gonna look like in the end. So I'll be back shortly. Guys, I got the basic box built. After looking at the table and the design, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw it out there, guys. I decided that if I was gonna make the table, I might as well make it big. So this is bigger than I initially had planned. I've left myself a little hangover here at the front. I've got about 2 3/4 inches hanging over the front because I am gonna like frame this thing out and do some board and batten in the bottom and kind of have a little decor going there. I cut these 2 here to 8 foot. I'm gonna do the same on the back side right there. And what I'm gonna do here, this is gonna be basically the supports for anything that I put up top. If I decide to put some old tin up there or decorate it or whatever. Lights, because I'm thinking I might get some LED strip lights and light this thing up. I wanna make this thing to where when people walk through this event, I want them to see my booth from across the park and go, let's go see what that is, because that looks cool. That's the design here. Now this thing's gonna be heavy, so it's definitely not gonna be for the weaker folks. But here's the kicker. I've got a 5x8 trailer that I use to haul my buggy here on. And this thing in its current configuration with the wheels, the handle, the whole 9 yards, is gonna roll right up on that 5x8 trailer that I can pull with my truck, or I can pull with our little small SUV that we got. So that's really not a concern for me. I don't want to get it too terribly heavy, but in the event that I do, I'll just engineer a little sturdier wheel system for it. All right, guys, making progress. I'm actually running into a little bit of a lumber shortage as far as the 2x material goes. So I'm fixing to have to start ripping some 1.5-inch boards to finish my bracing. Guinea. Chick, 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 chick. What are you doing, Guinea? But anyway, this is what it's going to be, kind of the idea. I think you can figure it out now. I have rethought the idea of where to put the television for the display. I'm going to hang it off that back corner back there, I believe, and it's going to be right above where my PC and where my workstation is going to be. And of course, the machine's going to be over here, and I'm going to have this for counter space to use to display things. And it's still, I mean, it's picking up some weight, but all in all, it's still not bad. I've got to do a lot more securing on the legs to make sure they don't fold up when I'm trying to roll it. But I'm going to use some material and get under there and kind of build I want to build the little cabinets, shelf space in, and the shelf space is going to double as bracing for those 2 front legs up there. Those are going to be the only 2 that I'm really concerned about with when you're rolling it, because that's where where the wheels are. Come here, Giddy. Come here. Chick, 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 chick. Come here. Chick, 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 chick. All right, Guinea is wanting to come visit, but she's a little skittish. But that's where we're at right now, guys. I think this is gonna be a pretty cool little display at the events. Like I said, I'm gonna be able to put my laser back far enough to not be on the edge of the table, but it's not gonna be so close as I've got to worry about anybody being able to reach into it. So I think that's gonna be a good fix. All right, guys, I had to make a run to town. I had to go to work for a few minutes, so while I was in town, I went ahead and got me some wheels. And let me make sure my audio is working, guys, because I don't want to have to retake this. It is. So, went ahead and got me some wheels so that I can move this thing around. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys, after doing this and doing some calculations and how I'm going to trying to figure out how I'm gonna bring this thing in and bring it out. By the time I put the top on this and the things that are gonna be mounted, you know, to it as far as the other little wood pieces, I don't wanna get too carried away on the weight of my little table here. I've got the front of it skirted with some 1/2-inch pine. I had to put a little bit of bracing on my wheels here to keep them from moving. But I think instead of putting shelves underneath it, because that's gonna add tremendously to the weight of this thing. I think what I have decided to do is I'm gonna get me 2 of those little wagons that you can buy. You can get them on Amazon, or I think Tractor Supply sells them, and then Harbor Freight's got one. It's just a little green, like a yard wagon. And I think I'm gonna use that to put my stuff in and bring it out. Because after looking at this, once I roll this thing up onto my trailer, I'm gonna have all that space, and I left this end open intentionally for that reason. I'm gonna have all this space that I could, if I had that stuff on a wagon, just roll it underneath it on the trailer for transport. And then once I got there, I could roll it out, roll my table into position, and then once I got the table in position, I can actually roll that little wagon underneath it, and bam, I've got storage for things that's out of the way, and I think that's going to be a better fit for me. But the wheels work pretty well. Like I said, it's pretty heavy. It's not necessarily for those with back trouble, or that have trouble lifting stuff, but for me, and it works. It's going to get a little heavier as I put more weight on it, but the balance of the weight, I'm gonna try to keep a lot of the weight to that side, because it's not, I mean, I can curl it, so it's not too terribly heavy, because in my older age, I've actually gotten a little weaker than I used to be. But if I can curl it, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to take my truck, drive to wherever my booth is gonna be, drop the tailgate on the trailer, roll this guy off. If I've got the wagons with my stuff on the wagons, except for, like I said, there's gonna be some wooden structures. I'm gonna have an enclosure built on here. I'm gonna put some tin up on the top of it and that kind of thing. So there's gonna be some more weight added to it. But I just got to thinking, I was like, why am I trying to build shelves on it to keep it lighter and easier to move over long distances, in case there's those situations to where I have to roll it into a building or something? Why not just use a wagon that's already built and just put my stuff in that? And so it hit me as I was under there trying to figure out how to do the shelving without making this thing weigh a ton, that was probably a better alternative, especially if I got somebody helping me. I can carry this and they can carry the wagon or whatever. And I went ahead and I didn't put any wood underneath the back of this, because I was afraid my legs would hit it. And so worst case, I can just kind of put this thing against my hips and walk with it like that. It's really not that heavy. So yeah, I think that's going to be the bulk of the actual table itself. I've still got to do, I'm going to get me a TV mount, and I'm going to mount the TV or the monitor here. I'm going to put it on a swivel mount right here. The enclosure is going to go over here. This is going to be my seating area right here behind the table. I had to put some angle brackets here to kind of reinforce the legs, just to be sure it didn't give on me. But that still affords me a significant space, and I still have room for the X tool over there. And then, like I said, if I use those wagons, I'll at least need one wagon, and I may wind up upgrading to use 2 wagons eventually. But I think in the beginning, I'm gonna start out with just one and just try to pile that thing full, or make multiple trips to the truck for that matter, you know, if I got a decent wagon. So I think this is gonna be the bulk of the build. I still gotta do some sanding because I wanna get all these little splinters off of it. I got a few little cosmetic things that I'm thinking about doing to it. And I got to put the roof on it. And like I said, I got to run some wiring for the TV and everything. I got to figure out how I'm going to run all that. I got to get the battery that I'm going to use. So once I get the battery and I get my wiring configuration figured out, get the enclosure built and the roof on it, I mean, it'll be good to go. I'm still deciding whether I want to do like 2x2 stripping for the roof. Like I said, I'm not trying to make this thing withstand an EF2 tornado or anything. I just don't want it falling on my head. So that's the bulk of it, but this is gonna be my Clack Shack festival, you know, Peach Jam, all these different things that they got coming up this fall. This is gonna be my table. It's gonna be a workspace that I can carry to places and do small jobs. I will have me some blanks with me and, you know, be able to sit there and make small stuff. Now, I'm not gonna be taking on any big jobs while I'm out there, but just the small stuff. But just to give you an idea, I'll spin this thing around where you can see the, well, I said I was, where you can see the other side here. I can't lift too high. Got 8-foot boards and a 9-foot roof. But this is the other side of it. And I know I could have just moved the camera, guys, but I kind of wanted to see if it would turn. The wheels are independent. I used 5/8 bolts and kind of fashioned my own little mini axles with those 5/8 bolts. I am going to try to dress the edge of this plywood up. I don't normally use plywood, but I had this big piece left over and I didn't have anywhere to store it, so I figured why not? It's a lot easier to do that than it is to try to biscuit and join a bunch of wood. I still haven't put all the screws in the top. I've only got 4 in the corners. I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out. But other than that, guys, this is gonna be the portable Clack Shack once I get it done. So I'm gonna do me a really big Clack Shack logo, and it's going right there. So that'll be what's to come, and I'll update you. But this is phase 1 of the portable Clack Shack. So I hope you liked it, and if you're trying to get into these events, guys, and go do these things, like I said, having a sawmill, I have no money in this thing other than my time. This was leftovers, so I don't know if you want to count that or not, but you know, this is probably $50 out of a $65 sheet of plywood, and then a bunch of screws, and I think the wheels were the most expensive part. Those are solid rubber wheels, and they're rated for like, I think 400 pounds a piece, I think it said. And those were 22 bucks each. So that's $45 worth of tires on it, but they seem to work pretty well. My Redneck Engineering using the bolts as axles seems effective. I did reinforce it with a little bit bigger piece of wood, but hey, if it works and it'll get me by until I can come up with something a little bit better, then that's great. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, guys. And as you can tell, I'm hot. My wife has came out and told me I'm gonna have a heat stroke. She keeps bringing up last year when I had to go to the ER with a kidney stone. So I'm gonna take a break for a few minutes and go work on this video, get something to eat, rehydrate so that I can keep the nagging down for tonight. But I appreciate you stopping by. If you have any questions or whatever, like I said, message me on Facebook, and you can email me, go to my website and shoot me a message there. But as I progress on this build, I will update you, but I've got to have it done by the first week of October because that's when all these festivals and stuff kick off. So, but I appreciate you and have a good day.